Okay, second page here on the back. So I'm definitely going to do number 7, and we can do number 6 as well. That way you got 2 sines and 2 cosines to graph. And then I did 4, so that leaves 4 for you guys to kind of do on your own and see if you get the same graphs. I will post these solutions so that you guys see the full picture. So let's do 6 and 7. We'll start with 6, and then I'll just give you a couple little notes here on the last page, just stuff for you to kind of keep in the back of your head. Okay, so number 6, if there's no number in front of the amplitude is 1. There's your b at 3, so period's going to be 2 pi over 3. Now, we're going to count by 2 pi over 3 divided by 4, which is 2 pi over 12, which is pi over 6. Great. Horizontal shift is going to be the opposite sign of what's inside here, so it's going to look like minus pi over 6. And then the vertical shift is going to be negative 1. Okay, so we know what we're going to count by. We know the amplitude. We know the horizontal shift. So let's just do it. So 1 pi over 6, 2 pi over 6 is pi over 3. 3 pi over 6 is pi over 2. 4 pi over 6 is 2 pi over 3. And then 5 pi over 6, 6 pi over 6 is pi. We can go negative, negative pi over 6, negative pi over 3, negative pi over 2, negative 2 pi over 3. 1, 2, negative 1, negative 2. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to graph this thing first, and then I'm going to leave the negative 1 at the very end. I'll just graph the original graph and then just shift everything down 1. So let's begin. We're going to start at negative pi over 6. Remember, sine curve goes up, then down. So I'm going to start at, instead of starting at 0, 0, I'm going to start at negative pi over 6. Then I'm going to go up to 1, down, and then down to negative 1, and then back up again. So that would be one curve of this graph. That would be one period of this graph. We're going to continue it on so I get 2 full cycles. 1, 2, and then continue on the other side. Up, down, looks great. Now remember, this is not with the horizontal, this is not with the vertical shift. This is with the horizontal shift. This is not with the vertical shift. So I'm going to do the vertical shift and just shift all my points down 1. Oops. This pen doesn't really work. That's okay. All right. I'll just make sure I can label them out properly. All right. So it will go down to negative 2, and the highest points will be 0 on my actual curve. So this one is really y equals 3, y equals sine 3 x plus pi over 6 minus 1. So that shifted down curve is my actual graph. The one above it is just the one without the vertical shift.